Hi everyone, welcome to our channel Startup Yard. We are happy having today a special guest, Jonas Wolf.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you Jonas for taking your time and sharing your experience of being an entrepreneur. So let me introduce Jonas. So Jonas is a Forbes 30 under 30 social entrepreneur and a World Economic Forum global shaper. So he co-founded LeaDAOship. He's gonna share us more about it later. And in China, Jonas was an integral part of the growth of the co-working startup Naked Hub, which was later acquired by WeWork. He has been leading the APAC division of the innovation agency Angel Hack, and he was part of the fast-growing gaming platform Yoda One as the head of recruiting. So we are super excited to learn more about your experiences of founding here in China. So welcome, Jonas. But before we get started, can you share us more about your China journey? Why did you come to China?
Sure.
And especially, what do you love of working, living here?
Sure. So for me, China was an unknown place. I worked in America before for 5 years, and I had no idea really about China. People told me several things, and once I stepped my feet onto Chinese ground, first in Hong Kong and then Beijing and other places, I learned that all my assumptions and all I thought I knew is pretty much wrong.
Oh and, I think this is something all of us experience. We have the big picture of China, we arrive and understand it's totally different.
Exactly, and I was blown away. Hong Kong is a fantastic city, so is Beijing, of course, and then in my first trip to Asia and first time staying in Hong Kong for 6 months, I also visited Shenzhen and a couple other places, and I was just blown away, and I knew, wow, there's so much to be explored and learned here, and that is also what I love the most. It's everyday new challenges and new learning things.
So there's no typical day in China because every day is totally different.
Exactly.
Great.
Yeah.
And so you started in Hong Kong, and why did you come to Beijing?
I came to Beijing, to be honest, for the startup ecosystem.
Oh wow, okay.
Seen Beijing, and I had a few friends here, so I decided to come here, take some Mandarin classes here. I figured Beijing is more Chinese than Shanghai or other cities, so I decided to take my Mandarin classes here, and I dived into the city and started looking for every startup event that I could find online, right, with very limited Chinese. And I met lots of interesting founders. Some of them are still around in China, and some in Beijing, some moved to other cities.
Wow.
And I've been intrigued by it, and I felt, wow, this is one of the places where a lot of innovation is happening, and the pace of innovation and progress is actually faster than most places of the world.
Okay.
And then I left China for a couple of months, but I decided I need to come back. I need to be here. I just want to be here.
So China never let you go, so you always come back. Once you've been here, you're gonna return.
Probably, yes.
Okay, so you choose particularly China because of the startup ecosystem.
Yeah.
That's amazing, because I believe most people, they come to China with different purpose, and they realize what kind of incredible network, incredible ecosystem you can experience here.
Yeah, so it's the ecosystem, it's opportunities, and the culture. I certainly love Chinese culture.
When you mention culture, what makes Chinese culture, considering also the startup ecosystem, unique? I mean, there is Silicon Valley. We have also in Europe so many startup hubs. What makes China so special?
To me, I mean, it's in terms of ecosystem, as Chinese ecosystem is still evolving, right? And it's a lot of doors are still closed for foreigners, and policies are opening up. It's getting easier to start businesses also here as a foreigner now, and it's all these elements coming together. And I actually believe the Chinese culture is so deep and rich that will be actually a key driver for innovation going forward. Versus more shallow cultures, I think the innovation rate will slow down at the certain points, and Chinese culture has this depth, and China is also investing more and more into the creativity of young people, and I think all these things will be coming together.
So you can feel it already here?
Yeah, of course, look around. I mean, it's a very inspiring environment here, right? We're sitting in Guomao in Beijing, in one of the centers of the world, right? It's beautiful to be here.
Yeah, great that you're mentioning it, because we live here, and sometimes we so stacked with our day-to-day activities. We don't even realize how lucky we are
we
being
need to
here
be
today.
grateful. Exactly,
Yes,
for sure.
Wonderful. And tell us more. I mentioned already before LeaDAOship. Tell us more about it, especially about this name. So, what does it mean, and what is your mission? What are you planning with this?
Great follow-up question, right? Like some of our here audience listeners might know the book Dao De Jing by Lao Tzu, and the Chinese word or character Dao means the way or the path, right? And Dao De Jing is actually the second most translated and I believe also sold book in the world after the Bible. And it's super famous. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. There's some great English translations as well. It's a book that I've read a couple of years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago when I first came to China. And then I took it more lightheartedly. But I've over the years read it again and again, especially during COVID. I read it so many times. And at least 10 times in the last 1.5 years.
So it's something super famous also for Chinese citizens?
Yes, of course. I mean, it's actually the core book of Chinese culture.
Oh wow!
It's I would say the book, right?
Okay.
It's maybe the Western world Confucius is more famous, but I think here it's one of the most famous works.
Okay, so you got inspired by this book to use it for your startup, the name, or?
Exactly. I mean, Dao De Jing is a lot about this Chinese philosophy, and it's a lot about elements being in balance, and also it relates a lot to being in a flow state. And I think when we do a startup, for example, that we are passionate about, or like LeaDAOship, clearly relates to the word leadership, right? And so if we are a passionate leader and we believe so much in our mission and what we want to accomplish, I believe we can be often in this special flow state, and that's where the magic is happening, right? And so I believe a lot in that, and I find this Chinese philosophy so beautiful.
It's so beautiful.
That I
That's
decided
an amazing
exactly
name. So
to combine that with the word leadership that I'm so passionate about. And I believe the world needs more leaders, needs better leaders. The challenges of post-COVID, of 21st century, fourth industrial revolution, and all of this just requires a new skill set and different leaders than we had and needed 10, 20 years ago. And I want to contribute to that and build, develop,
but tell
grow
us more
new leaders.
how, like, what is your mission? What you're gonna do? Because we met Jonas at one of his amazing events, which he's been creating in this beautiful environment here. I got super inspired by this event, and I came back home and I really wanted, like, now I have to do something. Let's do something, because this event was not just typical networking or speaker event, because Jonas, he's creating this thing together with the team, incredible environment to put outstanding people together, and at the same time connected also with your by creating, for example, a fitness after the event. So you sweat together, you work together, and you have this incredible environment. But I believe you can tell us much more what you do.
Of course. So LeaDAOship is the umbrella brand, and underneath we have several initiatives. The event you just mentioned is called Time to Change. And as the name says, self-explanatory, we believe change is the only constant. We are surrounded by change, and we want to help people through this journey of change and ultimately of growth, right? And we believe everything is better in community with like-minded people. So we decided to launch this event where we combine personal growth, kind of TEDx-style conferences, with fitness and some wellness elements. Because at the end of the day, how can we lead? How can we create startups, create ventures, if we are not energized? If we don't take care of ourselves, eventually we kind of fall apart, either on the inside or on the outside. So everything from spirituality, no matter what people believe, I believe all of this is important. Spirituality, nutrition, exercise, taking breaks, getting to know yourself very deeply, because that way the better we know ourselves, the deeper we know ourselves, the better we become at unlocking and unleashing our superpowers that we all have inside us. And it doesn't matter if people pursue entrepreneurship journeys or if they're growing as people and as leaders within larger organizations. This is something I think crucial to everybody. And I discovered a couple of years ago that is the key purpose in my life, to help people on those journeys. And so my personal mission is to grow and unleash more entrepreneurial leaders with all the activities I'm doing. Besides the Time to Change initiative, we also develop leadership boot camps and trainings. We ran a batch last year as a pilot project.
Okay, that's so amazing. That's so beautiful. I'm so excited of being here and seeing you growing all these initiatives here in China. That's so amazing.
Thank you, Karina. Yeah, and we started the first boot camp last October, and it was a great experience. Back then we started as a non-profit initiative just to help out people, and now we are leveling that up. And the long-term mission is actually, or the vision is to create a leadership and a training program that sets new standards in terms of people development, in terms of corporate trainings, in terms of onboarding trainings. I aspire to create something that when people join a new company, a new organization, that they will ask their boss to say, hey, I want to go through that training, and that is my big long-term goal.
Oh, wow, so big ambitious, big goals, and I believe you're gonna achieve it with this amazing vision.
We got to. We are here to do great things. Exactly.
Yeah, wonderful. So this, from the perspective of being an entrepreneur in China, I believe there's so many advantages and many opportunities. So feel like when you arrive in China, you feel like I can do anything, I can do everything. But then you realize you are not Chinese citizens, might be a cultural challenge or especially a language challenge. But from your perspective, what would you say are the biggest challenges or disadvantages?
To start a company, or of living here,
or to start a company in China, being a foreigner starting a company in China, because I believe those challenges that you experience, you can make them opportunities. So.
Exactly. I think the biggest thing is that every entrepreneur faces is uncertainty, right? And I think here it's just even more, because we don't know everything. We don't know all the rules. We don't know all the laws. We don't know the depth of Chinese culture. Even friends who have been 20 years in China, they still say we are still on the surface. Chinese culture is so deep, and if you truly want to understand Chinese audiences and Chinese consumers, right, you need to study relentlessly. You must always keep learning, right? And I think we never stop learning about this culture.
Yeah, but it's also
Chinese
a beautiful thing, right? Because
it's very beautiful.
What you learned here, you can adapt to your own culture and your own way of living.
Exactly. And so I think there's a lot that is happening here, and things are changing fast. We see it sometimes when brands make mistakes politically, culturally, right? It has huge implications. And same for startups. One mistake can kind of close your doors, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important for us to get closer to Chinese culture, to understand people better, and have friends and advisors, helping us to better understand and succeed here in the China market.
Exactly. So in order to avoid, you can avoid mistakes that are always because you're constantly learning.
Yes.
But what you say is to be closer engaged with the Chinese culture, not just from the perspective for learning it, but also from this perspective of understanding how to do business, how to create businesses in China.
I think very important, yeah.
Great. And you've been also working on around Southeast Asia with you were leading the APAC division of Angel Hack. You had also experienced I'm not sure if it was the time when it was the co-working startup Naked Hub, when it was acquired by WeWork, if you've been part of this process. But tell us more about what makes what a company has to create in order to be successful in China.
I think there's no one magic formula, because there's all these ingredients, right? We have different founders, we have different industries, different timings, right? and all these factors playing in, right? Team constellation, investors, all of this. And so for Naked Hub, I was incredibly fortunate and lucky. I joined as the first foreign employee in Beijing.
Oh wow! So you've been the only person.
Actually, I was the only foreign employee in Beijing.
Oh wow! Okay.
One of our sales directors was Singaporean, and he came to Beijing every couple of weeks, right? But in part, like the Beijing core team, I was the only foreigner, and that was extremely challenging and extremely rewarding because I learned again so much, right, from all these new experiences. And back then, I think we were really lucky to be in a state and stage where co-working has been hyped. It was really extremely hot. Everybody was talking about it, the future of work, where and how companies going to work. And actually now we're just reaching the next phase of that, right? Because COVID happened, right? And people are adjusting, right?
Yeah.
Some companies want fully flexible solutions. Some companies want more on-demand solutions, right? Some people keep their legacy offices but then add flexible options to it. But anyway, back then, co-working just started to become hot, right? And Naked Hub was at the forefront of that with incredible design, incredible people, incredible service, and creating cutting-edge technology. For example, 3 years ago, Naked Hub created something called Naked Hub Go, where you could walk to any of our co-working spaces, just use your smartphone, and start scanning.
Oh really? Like
and
3 years ago, when everything I believe
like you
it
rent
was
a mobile, like you rent
wow.
a shared bike or a shared scooter,
Yeah.
right? And now we have this shared economy, and you can rent nearly everything, umbrellas, power banks, whatever here in China, right? But back then it was extremely innovative for a space to say, hey, you can just scan here and the door opens and you have a coffee and meeting space and all these beautiful amenities for 2-3 hours, whatever you're booking, right? And that was also one of the key reasons, I believe, plus a great strategy, why Weaver wanted to buy us and then at the end acquired us for a reported $400 million.
Oh wow!
Which
and
was
you've been part
massive.
of this whole journey?
Not the whole journey. I wasn't there from the beginning, right?
No, but I mean the journey when you were acquired.
Of course. I mean, it's been an
must be super exciting.
An epic year, exactly, since I met Naked Hub. Since my first interaction with the space until acquisition, it was about 1 year. And to be part of this 1 year, all the stages and fundraising and partnerships and sales and big deals, and we got the American Chamber of Commerce in as our client and a couple big name companies, and that was just so thrilling.
Wow.
And then
it was I believe, like an incredible time where you had the chance experience on the ground how does it work, what doesn't work in China.
Exactly.
All built on that experience.
And of course many things didn't work, right? But at the end of the day it worked out, and I'm grateful for this opportunity and excited for the founder and everybody involved. And it's a beautiful network. Like the other day I was at a startup conference in Shanghai called TechCon by my friend Marian, and I met one of my past Naked Hub colleagues who is now working in the investment field for Hire, the company that builds all these refrigerators and so on, right? And
it must be super rewarding meeting those people because you...
And she grew up so much. I'm so proud of her. Her name is Reed, and she was space manager, and we worked together at Naked Hub, and now she's doing super exciting things over there. And another colleague I met in Shanghai is now in the field of alternative proteins, and also in the VC field in that area. And it's so amazing to see everybody growing, developing, and very happy about this.
So you've been also in the stage of, because you mentioned the term fundraising. I believe fundraising, it's one of the most used words we talk about startups. What is your fundraising experience here in China? Would you say it's different, or is it like any country where you try to raise money?
I only try to raise funding here for own ventures and for ventures I've been involved in or I've been consulting with. And but based on what I hear from abroad, of course the difference is right. As we are addressing mainly foreign founders who want to succeed in China and elsewhere, it is very difficult to build trust with Chinese VCs, right? Because of course there have been some negative cases, right? And you can imagine how an investor feels if somebody gives up too fast, right?
Yeah.
And also people know the challenges for foreigners here, right? they know how hard Chinese founders are working, right? People might have heard about the 992 or the 996 attitude, where people work from 9 to 9, 6 or even 7 days a week, right?
Yeah.
And that is the spirit here, and most foreigners are not used to that, and it's so hard to live that lifestyle and compete with that, right? And so if you say you want to compete here in a competitive market, it is nearly impossible, right? I think it's best for foreign founders here to choose a niche or to choose something where they have a unique background, right? With the training programs, for example, I started my career in Germany as an apprentice, age 16, right? And so I've been through so many different types of trainings, since a very young age. And I believe if I combine all my experiences in entrepreneurship and leading organizations and training people and having this background, again, having been through a training already at age 16, right? I believe I can create something really unique, and there will not be that many competitors in that field, right? And
so what you're saying, find what is your find your personal what you call
sweet
super
spot.
brand,
Yeah,
sweet spot,
exactly, your superpower, right?
Superpower you need, and try to include this in this.
Exactly. If you go into a space that is already competitive, it's so hard to compete, right? Or to scale up, right? Of course, you can start a restaurant and there's so much competition there, right? And you can have the best service or the best ingredients and you can succeed there, right? But if you want to be in a space where there's competition, right? We talked earlier about it, launching an athletic wear t-shirt brand, for example, right? There's so much competition, right? And it will be so damn hard here, right? Even harder than elsewhere.
Yeah. So I feel like the competition, if in any industry here in China, is much more challenging.
Fierce. It's fierce. It's brutal
compared with other places.
Yeah, people are working extremely hard here.
Yeah. Great. And also when you're talking about hiring people, because you've been also working as a head of recruiting for the gaming platform You're the One, can you tell us more about hiring processes, hiring channels, and how would you also, again, differentiate hiring here compared to Western countries?
I think hiring is always a key thing in startups, right? In any venture, in any company, right? You need to bring in great people to work with. And the differences, right? I mean, it's just different channels, right? You have different recruiting platforms, right? There's still a bit coming in through LinkedIn, right? That is more like the overseas educated Chinese, right? And LinkedIn is growing a lot here. However, there are so many other like Boss and so on platforms where Chinese people are going for jobs.
So I believe for ours, like it might be something weird to imagine you get a job on WeChat, but this is like the reality, right?
Yeah, people post in the moments, right? Like people would post in the Western world on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
And so that's actually like where a lot of people find jobs as well. Yeah, and I believe everywhere referrals are a great way. So the more people you get referred by current staff, by co-founders, by partners, by investors, right? By business partners, the better. And that has worked really well for me. Also, I love to hire people that I've worked with before, no matter if that's in a volunteering venture. I've met many people also at trade shows, conferences.
So it's again the word of your personal network.
Of course. Yes. But then it's more than just one interaction at a networking event. I think it's about you can connect at a networking event. You do some small project together, right? It can be like working on a podcast, it can be working on an event. There can be so many ways, and you get to know people, you know their strengths and weaknesses, and you see how you flow. And then I believe in trial projects, right? You take some test projects together, see how they're going, and then you can deepen the engagement, right? Like for example, the time to change events. I started with Anja.
I believe you had so many, felt like the whole Beijing community is like those outstanding people in their field, in their industry. They have been representing at this event. So welcome Angel. He is our fitness guy here in Beijing. So he's been leading on fitness sessions.
Of course. And he is doing way more beyond that, right? And we've known each other for a couple of years, so we know about each other's values. We know what kind of people we are, right? I know I can trust him, right? And we have been a great team so far. And looking forward to grow that and scale it.
Great. So yeah, maybe in a few years, couple of years, in our Western world, we're also gonna post the jobs instead of LinkedIn, just in WeChat groups or any other social media.
Exactly.
Great.
I think it's about broadness, right? We need to reach different people. We need to know where. Same with clients, right? Where's our target audience, right? Where do we best find the people that we want to reach, right? I know some people, they don't post anything. They just go by recommendations and referrals, right?
Great. And we talked now already about fundraising, about hiring, about the Chinese culture. I believe one of those important elements for a startup, it's one of the first steps you do, also what we learned in our bootcamp, what we are aiming to give the skills to our entrepreneurs is pitching. So since you're leading every week the pitch club, can you tell us what's the key elements of, or what you need to make a pitch successful?
A good question. I think pitching is a key skill, even beyond entrepreneurship. Pitching, public speaking, communication, right? And I think when you pitch something, your key aim is to sell something, right? You pitch yourself, you pitch your product, you pitch an open role, right? You pitch for fundraising, right? All is pitching, right? Even when you ask somebody out on a date, you're basically pitching yourself, right? And I think people don't realize how important this skill is, right? And so I think most important is that you connect your pitch, your message to your audience, who you want to address, right? How does the other person think, feel? What does the other person need, right? And so build that connection, right? Also, we always recommend to communicate through stories, because our brain is wired, right? Even before we had formal language, right? People communicated stories through like drawings on caves, right? And then language developed, right? So we are wired by stories, we remember stories, right? When we think back about school, right, we remember stories about our teachers, but the content often we forget because it's just not there anymore.
Who remembers what exactly they learned and day 3 of their school time?
Exactly,
so
right?
It's really about the story that you memorize.
Exactly. And a final thing to add, I think, is at the end, we need to have an ask, right? We call it a CTA, or call to action, right? Because if we're just sharing, right, it's we need to get to our goal, right? So if you are in a sales call, right, at the end of the day, the goal is to close, right? So we need to ask for something, we need to ask for commitment, right? We need to ask about their level of confidence in our pitch. We need to ask for feedback. We need to ask about a yes or a no, right? About clarity. We need to ask and say like, hey, you know, what do we need to do to get you to join our company, right? And so I think this asking for something at the end is really important.
I think that's something usually forget. So when we pitch, is it a company or ourselves, any life situation or daily life, so we forget about this last step of the next step of the call to action.
Exactly. Cause people to take action, whatever it is, right? Give us something, commit to something, take action, change their behavior, right? And that is really important.
Great. It's one of the amazing initiatives you're running every week to help people, to support them, and to improve their pitching skills, and in order to be successful and achieve their goals. It's amazing. So before we're closing today, there is just one last question. It would be great if you could share with us your advices to our entrepreneurs if they want to start their business here in China.
Sure. I think I hinted that direction earlier already. In my opinion, it's really important to find that niche where there is this intersection of a market need and the skills and background that you bring in, plus the timing, right? Because timing, as I said, for Naked Hub, it was perfect, right? And so timing is one of the key factors, right? And also like what resources you have available right now, or what can you get to through your network, you know, we call it Guangxi here, relationships, right?
Yes.
And one of the key things needed. And I think really finding that sweet spot is so important, right? And a key thing, and also what we want to address with LeaDAOship, is to help people really like explore themselves in depth. Because I strongly believe, and I even know this for myself, right, that even we think we know ourselves, we don't know ourselves so deeply, right? And that is actually a really, really, really important thing, right? and I'm very happy to be a mentor and helping you guys as a facilitator for the upcoming bootcamp. And that's something also we should address in that opening session.
Yes.
And I'm very excited to be part of it.
Yeah.
And I love what you guys are doing with the Startup Yard and
thank you so much. It means a lot to us.
Yeah, and so I'm very excited and I see you guys growing that initiative as well, creating impact, right? And if people are interested in growing themselves as leaders and as entrepreneurs, of course, I invite everybody to connect with me or follow me on social
so we're
media.
Gonna include your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, it's very simple. Everywhere at the Growth Wolf. Right?
Yeah.
As you guys can see, the wolf is here represented.
Special shirt.
Exactly. Maybe it's hard to see from the distance. But yeah, my last name is Wolf, and my mission is to help people be there with their growth, right?
It's so beautiful.
And,
so for sure, you are more than happy and welcome to connect with Jonas. And
that's the spirit, right? We grow and learn together. So Katarina, great to be here with you today.
Thank you so much, Jonas. Thank you for being here. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Have a good one, guys. See ya.